Yeah, welcome back. You're still watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. Now, Chad has reached an agreement for a $570 million program with the International Monetary Fund under its extended credit facility. IMF affirms the agreement and notes that the three-year program, seen as crucial to meet the Central African nation's financing needs, allows for an immediate disbursement of $78.28 million. What does this say about Chad's public finance? We have Matt Kindiger, practice lead, Sub-Saharan Africa at Front of View, joining us to tell us. Hello, Matt. Good to have you again. Good afternoon.
Having me on the program today.
So what does this IMF package tell us about the state of public finances in Chad?
Certainly. So this is quite a large package that Chad has received from the IMF. It suggests that the country's public finances are under pressure. Chad has been quite negatively affected by COVID-19, substantially more so than most other African countries in terms of the country's economic growth. Chad has been really affected badly by the collapse in oil prices last year. So Chad is quite a large oil producer. Oil is very important for the country's public finances and economy overall. So certainly it illustrates the vulnerability of the country's public finances. But it is worth noting that this is a step in the right direction. Chad has already reached an agreement with some of its bilateral creditors, such as France, China, as well as India and Saudi Arabia in June this year. So certainly the country is in a better position than it could otherwise have been if it weren't for these agreements to stabilize its public finances. So although we are expecting austerity measures over the next 3 to 6 months or the next couple of years as well, certainly the country is not facing an imminent threat of a default or distress in our view. So moving in the right direction.
All right, so this comes just 10 days after a similar package was agreed with Zambia. So it seems like the sub-Saharan African countries, who is likely to go in next for IMF funding from your perspective?
Yes, so Zambia's agreement with the IMF was only 10 days ago, and 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a similar agreement reached with Tanzania. So this is a trend we're seeing across sub-Saharan Africa where governments are seeking financial support from the IMF. It's difficult to know which country will be next. However, there are a number of large countries in sub-Saharan Africa that we are monitoring here at Frontier View and which we think could be next in line, either for another IMF set of funding or quite severe austerity measures. So Ghana, Angola, Kenya, and Ethiopia are the markets that we are monitoring closely. These are the markets that the World Bank expects to be at the highest risk of debt distress. However, again, it's very unlikely that we will see defaults amongst these governments. And this is because if these governments do face imminent distress, we are seeing trends of governments implementing quite pragmatic austerity measures, and the IMF has been quite forthcoming in providing support. So certainly there is risk of further austerity, although we don't think it will result in defaults in sub-Saharan Africa over the next 3 to 6 months or so.
So how long do you expect these public finances in sub-Saharan Africa to remain under pressure?
Yes, this is a crucial question because COVID-19 has really blown apart the fiscal assumptions that governments made before the pandemic arose. So public finances in sub-Saharan Africa were already under pressure before the pandemic, but governments were able to keep their heads above water. And this is because economic growth was supporting their ability to service their debts. However, this is no longer the case. We've already begun to see quite extensive austerity measures being introduced. South Africa is a very good example. Kenya has reduced its spending ambitions for the next couple of years. So there's no quick fix, really. We would need to see economic growth accelerate quite substantially to provide substantial relief to economies over the next year or so. So what we expect to happen is fiscal pressures will remain for the next 2 to 3 years. So we are likely to see tax increases as well as spending cuts and more conservative infrastructure investment, maybe until the mid-2020s. it won't be until 2024 or 2025 before we begin to see the very substantial increases in government spending and investment like we saw before the pandemic. So probably another couple of years.
Wow, I guess Africans should tighten their belts. Sounds like that. All right, thank you so much, Matt, for bringing us up to date and giving us some details on Chad. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks very much. You too.